After studying this module, we shall be able to understand profit maximization as the objective of financial management, appreciate shareholders' wealth maximization as the objective of financial management, show that shareholders' wealth maximization is superior to profit maximization, and come to know about other possible objectives of financial management.
The term objective in the context of financial management is used to describe a goal or decision criteria for financial management decisions. For financial management, an operationally useful criteria is required which would serve as a yardstick for financial decisions is capital budgeting, capital structure, dividend policy, and working capital management. The objective would provide a framework within which optimal financial decisions can be taken. The objective of financial management should be derived from wider corporate vision, mission, goals, and objectives. Thus, objective of financial management would be the financial part of overall corporate objectives and would therefore be in harmony with wider organizational goals. It will provide a basis to attain financial targets which are required to achieve corporate goals. Hence, the chief financial officer of the organization or financial manager must clearly determine the basic objective of financial management and communicate the same to entire finance team. Hereunder, we shall discuss some of the main objectives of financial management.
In the traditional phase, profit maximization was considered to be the main objective of financial management. As per this approach, main aim of the business concern is to earn profit. Profit maximization as an objective of financial management means that all financial decisions in a firm are guided by the criteria of amount of profits that financial decision generates or saves. Unprofitable projects and investments alternatives would be rejected. If sufficient funds are not available to finance all profitable investment projects, then those with higher profits would be selected. Profit maximization as objective of financial management is justified on the multiple grounds. It is said that main purpose of most businesses is to earn profits. Profits can be suitable criteria for measuring success of business operations. Profit maximization ensures efficient utilization of scarce financial resources as these resources are allocated to uses which generate maximum profits, and profit maximization may lead to maximization of economic welfare of society. However, profit maximization as objective of financial management is severely criticized on the several bases. It is a vague and ambiguous objective, as the term profit is not specifically defined. It does not consider the time value of money, that is, timing of receipt of benefits is not considered. It ignores risk, that is, quality of benefits is ignored. The objective of business enterprise is not just to maximize profit, but also to create value for its owners. And lastly, it is based on accounting profits, which can be easily affected by management through altering of accounting policies. Due to these drawbacks, profit maximization is regarded as an unrealistic and inappropriate objective of financial management. In modern phase, the objective of financial management is considered to be shareholders' wealth maximization as against the profit maximization. Shareholders' wealth includes market value of company's shares, reserves and surplus, and accumulated profits. Market value of shares or market capitalization is equal to market price per share multiplied by the number of shares. As per this approach, the focus of finance manager should be on maximization of market price per share so that total shareholders' wealth or investment is maximized. If shareholders are not satisfied with the functioning of the management or progress of the organization, they can communicate their displeasure by selling company's share, which result in fall in share prices. To attain shareholders' wealth maximization, finance manager would want to maximize the value of all investment projects which the firm selects and undertakes. For this, they are required to evaluate the alternative projects on the specified criteria. NPV is one such criteria. As seen from the equation, NPV can be obtained by subtracting present value of all cash outflows of the project from the present value of all cash inflows received during the lifetime of the project. In the equation, N is equal to life of the project in the years. C1, C2, C3 and up to Cn are the cash inflows of the years 1, 2, 3 up to n. C0 is the initial cash outflow of the project. K is the discount rate or the cost of capital of the firm. The decision rule for selecting any given project using NPV is when the projects are not mutually exclusive. Choose all the projects with positive NPV, that is, NPV is greater than 0. When the projects are mutually exclusive, rank projects from highest NPV to lowest NPV and select the projects in that order. Now, let us discuss the arguments in favor of shareholders' wealth maximization. Firstly, it aims to maximize the value of investments or wealth of the shareholders. Hence, it is considered superior to profit maximization. Second, it is based on the concept of cash flows, which is precise and unambiguous, unlike accounting profit. Third, it considers the timing of occurrence of cash flows. It thus takes into the account the time value of money. It also considers the risk associated with the occurrence of cash flows and ensures that the funds of a company are allocated to optimum uses which generate maximum value or worth to the shareholders.
Let us now discuss why wealth maximization is superior to profit maximization. Wealth maximization aims to maximize the value of investment or wealth of the shareholders. Hence, is considered superior to profit maximization. It is based on the concept of cash flows, which is precise and unambiguous, unlike profit. Here, cash inflow is treated as benefit and cash outflow as cost associated with a particular decision. Wealth maximization considers the timing of occurrence of benefits, for example, cash inflows, for example, cash outflows. It thus takes into account the time value of money. Wealth maximization also considers the risk associated with occurrence of cash flows. Wealth maximization ensures that funds of a company are allocated to those users which generate a maximum value or worth to the shareholders. Wealth maximization ensures that funds of a company are allocated to those uses which generate maximum value or worth to the shareholders. Shareholders' wealth maximization also upholds the economic welfare of the society as a whole by ensuring efficient allocation of society's scarce capital resources.
The decision rule for selecting any given project using NPV is when the projects are not mutually exclusive. Choose all the projects with positive NPV, that is, NPV is greater than 0. When the projects are mutually exclusive, rank projects from highest NPV to lowest NPV and select the projects in that order. Now, let us discuss the arguments in favor of shareholders' wealth maximization. Firstly, it aims to maximize the value of investments or wealth of the shareholders. Hence, it is considered superior to profit maximization. Second, it is based on the concept of cash flows, which is precise and unambiguous, unlike accounting profit. Third, it considers the timing of occurrence of cash flows. It thus takes into the account the time value of money. It also considers the risk associated with the occurrence of cash flows and ensures that the funds of a company are allocated to optimum uses which generate maximum value or worth to the shareholders. Now, let us discuss the grounds on which shareholders' wealth maximization is criticized. It is difficult to incorporate shareholders' wealth maximization as objective of financial management in day-to-day functioning of modern business enterprise. It creates owner-management conflict and gives rise to agency problem. It seeks to maximize only shareholders' wealth and is not considered about welfare of other important stakeholders of the business, such as management, creditors, employees, suppliers, distributors, and customers. Apart from the objectives discussed so far, there are some other possible objectives of financial management as well. We start with stakeholders' welfare maximization. Stakeholder in a company is anyone who has an interest in the company, can influence the fortunes of the company, or is itself influenced by the happenings related to the company. Shareholders, management, creditors, employees and employee unions, suppliers, distributors, consumer and consumer groups, government and its agencies, local people living in close proximity to the business, environment groups and the society at large are the main stakeholders of the company. A finance manager has to indulge in satisfying behavior whereby the minimum requirements of all stakeholders are fulfilled. The extent to which a stakeholder's expectations are met will depend upon the degree of influence which that stakeholder possesses on the business in relation to other stakeholders.
Stakeholder in a company is anyone who has an interest in the company, can influence the fortunes of the company, or is himself influenced by the happenings related to the company. Shareholders, management, creditors, employees and employee unions, suppliers, distributors, consumers and consumer groups, government and its agencies, local people living in close proximity to the business, environment groups and society at large are the main stakeholders of a company. Each of these groups are important for the functioning of the business. Thus, a finance manager cannot seek to maximize the interest of any one group and ignore the needs of the others, because the financial resources are at the disposal of finance manager limited. He or she cannot maximize the benefits to every stakeholder. Also, even if he or she had enough financial resources, then also it would not have been possible, because often the interests of various stakeholders are in conflict with each other. For example, number one, while shareholders would want more percentage of after tax profits to be distributed as dividends, the managers would want to retain more percentage of after tax profits in the business to meet future growth needs. Creditors would want firm to undertake low risk projects so that their claims can be met, but shareholders would want firm to undertake more risky projects so that they can earn more returns. Suppliers, distributors and employees would want higher payments, margins and salary respectively, which would increase costs and hence price of the product, but customers would want lower prices. Thus, a finance manager has to indulge in a satisfying behavior whereby the minimum requirements of all stakeholders are met. The extent to which a stakeholder's expectations are met will depend upon the degree of influence which the stakeholder possesses on the business in relation to other stakeholders. The shareholders' wealth maximization as the primary goal notwithstanding, there is a broader focus in financial management to include the interest of other stakeholders along with that of the shareholders. The goal should be to preserve the well-being of all stakeholders and not to maximize welfare of a few of them. However, it would not be inferred that stakeholders' welfare maximization is in conflict with the shareholders' wealth maximization objective. Protection of interest of various stakeholders and enhancement of their welfare is a corporation's responsibility. It in fact maximizes value to the shareholders in the long run by enabling a favorable relationship with various stakeholders and in turn minimizing stakeholders' turnover, clashes and lawsuits.
Next is the maximization of economic value added, EVA. EVA can be computed by using the formula as shown here. A positive EVA would mean addition to shareholders' wealth by the amount arrived at, and a negative EVA would cause shareholders' wealth to decline by the amount of negative EVA. Hence, only those investment projects which have positive EVA should be undertaken. EVA is praised because it is a relatively simpler than other approaches and easy to understand, is theoretically sound, and exhibits correlation with the share prices. That is, positive EVA can causes share price to increase and vice versa. However, NPV is preferred over EVA as EVA does not account for size differences across projects, relies on the financial accounting methods of the revenue realization and expense recognition for computation, and does not consider future cash flows.
In corporate finance, economic value added EVA is an estimate of a firm's economic profit being the value created in excess of the required return of the company's investors being shareholders and debt holders. Quite simply, EVA is the profit earned by the firm less the cost of financing the firm's capital. The idea is that value is created when the return on the firm's economic capital employed is greater than the cost of that capital. This amount can be determined by making adjustments to GAAP accounting. There are potentially over 160 adjustments that could be made, but in practice only 5 or 7 key ones are made depending on the company and the industry it competes in. This measure was devised by Stern Stewart and Company. Economic value added attempts to capture the true economic profit of a company. There are three components necessary to solve EVA: net operating profit after tax, NOPAT, invested capital, and the weighted average cost of capital, WACC. Operating profit after taxes, NOPAT, can be calculated but can usually be easily found on the corporation's income statement. The next component, capital invested, is the amount of money used to fund a particular project. We will also need to calculate the weighted average cost of capital, WACC, if the information is not provided. The idea behind multiplying WACC, weighted average cost of capital, and capital investment is to assess a charge for using the invested capital. This charge is the amount that investors as a group need to make their investment worthwhile. A modern corporation can be viewed as a nexus of a variety of explicit and implicit contracts involving several stakeholders including employees, customers, suppliers, lenders, the community and shareholders. These stakeholders provide resources and services to the business enterprise and expect to get compensated. Shareholders provide the risk capital that guarantees the performance of the corporation's explicit and enforceable contracts by subordinating their financial claims to that of other stakeholders. Shareholders willingly accept a residual claim and get paid only if there is anything left over after employees, suppliers, taxes and other claims have been satisfied. In return for providing the risk bearing function, shareholders get unlimited upside potential by acquiring property rights to the residual income. To efficiently perform their role as bearers of risk in a modern corporation, shareholders should diversify their investments across a large number of different enterprises. By diversifying their portfolios, they eliminate a large part of the risk they bear. In a competitive marketplace, the price of risk will be determined by those shareholders who are best able to bear risk, namely diversified investors. Therefore, market price of risk will only reflect risk which does not disappear in a diversified portfolio. It is called the systematic risk and arises from economy wide risk factors. The fact that equity investors should and routinely do diversify to efficiently perform their risk bearing roles creates the dilemma that is the central concern of corporate finance. When shareholders are diversified and own small ownership stakes in several business entities, they are unable to meaningfully monitor their investments. It is not in the interest of each shareholder to individually expend resources monitoring the operations of a company, because doing so would cause each shareholder to incur full cost of such efforts, while any benefit would be shared by all shareholders. The market will fail to provide for meaningful monitoring by shareholders even if it were in their collective best interest. Economists call this market failure due to the free rider problem. The separation of ownership of equity capital from the control of such capital by professional managers creates a potential conflict of interest. Managers who run the business need not necessarily be guided by incentives to enhance the shareholders' wealth. Economists call this the agency problem. Management of corporations based on EVA will maximize shareholders' wealth. To achieve this objective, shareholders should compensate management on the basis of incremental EVA they generate. EVA makes people accountable not just for the results but also for resources utilized in achieving the results. For example, without an EVA based incentive system, marketing people generally want more resources to sell more and earn larger sales based compensation, even when the marginal benefit to the organization is less than the marginal cost of increased sales. Most companies estimate the marginal profitability of their product without regard to opportunity cost of equity capital. Suppose a company finds that a certain operation is profitable by traditional measures and it decides to incur additional investment to increase production. The company may find its profits have increased, but its stock price has dropped because the shareholders could have earned higher marginal profits by investing elsewhere. EVA based analysis will always provide the answer that is consistent with shareholders' interest. To motivate managers to act in the shareholders' interest, their compensation should depend on increases in EVA they produce. Managerial objectives based on increasing income or market share, increasing return on assets or equity or other traditional measures can provide incentives inconsistent with maximizing the shareholders' wealth. Maximizing EVA will always produce incentives to maximize shareholders' wealth.
Next is maximization of earning per share, EPS. EPS can be calculated by using the formula as shown here. In this approach, finance manager takes all decisions with an aim to maximize earning per share. Only those investment projects are selected which increase EPS. Maximizing EPS does not imply maximization of shareholders' wealth. The two concepts are different. Maximization of EPS ignores time value of money and risk associated with expected benefits. Also, market price of company's share is not directly related to EPS. EPS can be one of the several factors influencing the market price of a company share. Yet, Another objective of financial management is maximization of sales. To attain this objective, the finance manager aims to maximize sales volume. However, this is not generally regarded as the objective of financial management because higher sales volume does not necessarily mean equal proportionate increase in the profit of the enterprise or wealth of the shareholders or welfare of the stakeholders. Finally, we look at the maximization of the market share as an objective of the financial management. The focus is on establishing the firm as the market leader by acquiring maximum percentage share of the overall market. Maximization of the market share is also not considered as the true objective of the financial management because there does not exist a perfect correlation between higher market share and increased wealth of shareholders or profitability of the business. In this module, we have learned that for financial management, objective is an operationally useful criteria which would serve as a yardstick for decisions of the financial management. We have discussed profit maximization as an objective of the financial management, the arguments for and the arguments against the profit maximization. We have also discussed how and why, in the modern phase, shareholders' wealth maximization has emerged as an objective of the financial management, and why it is superior to the concept of profit maximization. At last, we have discussed the other objectives of financial management, like stakeholders' welfare maximization, maximization of economic value added, maximization of earning per share, maximization of sales, and maximization of market share.
Let us recapitulate what we have learned in this module. For financial management, objective is an operationally useful criteria which would serve as a yardstick for decisions of financial management, that is capital budgeting, capital structure, dividend policy and working capital management. Profit maximization as objective of financial management means that all financial decisions in a firm are guided by the criteria of amount of profits that the financial decision generates or saves. Profit maximization is criticized because it is vague and ambiguous, but does not consider the time value of money, ignores risk and is based on accounting profit. In the modern phase, the objective of financial management is considered to be shareholders' wealth maximization. The focus of finance manager is on maximization of market price per share so that shareholders' wealth is maximized. Shareholders' wealth maximization is considered superior to profit maximization because it aims to maximize the value of investments or wealth of shareholders and is based on cash flows, considers the timing of occurrence of cash flows and risk associated with occurrence of cash flows. Stakeholders' welfare maximization, maximization of economic value added, maximization of earnings per share, maximization of sales and maximization of market share are other possible objectives of financial management.